Brad.
Randy.
Yeah. Nice to sit down and do this. First off, like meeting you at the end of last year and just sitting down and getting to know you and chatting about Expedient and being at your guys' event was amazing. But if you could just kind of give a little bit about your background and Expedient, that would be very helpful to start off.
Yeah, so been pretty much a serial entrepreneur, similar to yourself.
Yeah.
Not so much in channel like you are, but mostly on the tech side.
Yeah.
So I've always had sales partners and people like that. But I started Expedient, the company I work for now, in 2001 as an access company. So I kind of came up in the ISP world, tons of ISPs, let's go roll up and aggregate a bunch of them, and then telecom kind of the floor fell out on it in 2000 and started cobbling together some access assets like fiber and fixed wireless and all that kind of stuff. So cobbled together a bunch of companies and sold it in 2005. Interesting thing is that when we were acquiring all these different assets, we got data centers along with it. And at that point, data centers were the realm of Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
Most people had gear and phone closets at their office, even big companies. And so the market, since I sold Expedient, changed quite a bit. People were like, hey, I want to take that stuff out of my phone closet. I want to put it in a data center. I want colo. And then they're like, okay, I want to go maybe a step further and take that physical infrastructure out and turn it into virtual machines. And then they're thinking, okay, I want to take those virtual machines and turn those into little container services, and then start using other hyperscale type services and all those types of things. So kind of an evolution over time of how a couple different aspects were changing. One, distribution. So how do we get information to people super fast?
Yeah.
It's mostly the access business. But on the compute side, how do we make our compute more efficient? And so those two kind of trends have built the company, Expedient, but let alone others in the industry. But now we have a new technology in terms of AI. So I came back to Expedient a year and a half ago with a thought like, hey, there's a new compute technology that's out there. And that's why I think about it. Think about a big computer program.
Yeah.
And how can we ride this wave? Like, we don't know exactly how we're going to ride it, but we know the DNA of our company is let's assemble awesome things from other providers and make it super simple for our clients to consume X. So like when we sell VMware, there was tons of competing technologies to do server hosting and hypervisors. Like, let's find the big enterprise software. Let's make it simple for our clients to use that. And then we'll start adding ancillary services around the side of it. It's the same thing with AI, which is like, this is not only a compute technology, this is a technology that can answer information from data that you have. So it's like beyond a computer, but it's complex. I mean, the world right now is super complex. I would love to say like, let's go buy the VMware of AI, integrate that and make it real simple for our clients to use. That doesn't exist right now. And it reminds me actually, as you mentioned, the history, like back in the ISPs of like 94, 95, every mom and pop was building different things. We didn't know where it would go, but about 8-10 years later, there were about 10 ISPs. So, we figured it out, but at that early stage, you were just kind of making some bets and taking some experiments. But I just look at, I'm 45. If I'm going to work till 65 or 70, half my career's over. First half was internet data center. Second half, I'm going to be riding on AI. So, because all the good things will come out of that. And so we're kind of positioning a product set in our company to capitalize off of it.
I love that. I think one of the most exciting parts of this conversation with you is, you took that journey in technology from network. You've seen the UCaaS models and software built in that because you grew up in the network space. You've seen the development of compute and the outsourcing and the buildup of compute platforms to be able to deploy that. You've watched that and you've been a part of that throughout your entrepreneurial software builds and how that plays into it. So you've actually been a major innovator in the space and probably one of the most intriguing conversations that I've ever had, because most people see a piece of it. They don't see the whole picture. And so, Expedient as an overall company is something, after building rapid scale and selling to Cox and running that, probably one of the most intriguing things is that there's not a lot of people that think about the client experience. How do you build the stack to deliver that? How do you drive enough profit margin to the company so it's sustainable? You know, there's a lot of people going to this hyperscale world, but they're saying, do I really need to be there? What is my cost difference if I come back out of it? I mean, you're seeing a huge question mark because of the egress and ingress of data and the spend there associated to it. Scalability and optimization on those platforms are kind of like up in the air, questionable sometimes. And so if you could dig in a little bit on the cloud side, and then I want to bridge that into this AI side and how that tool set and mindset is now attaching to what the core of it is between data center and compute, which really, to the way I see it, is the core to Expedient, because you got edge and network off of that plays off of that, but your core is your data center, your compute, and the way you deliver the experience to the customers. How does the AI play into that?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I think we've asked ourselves this kind of formative mission vision question. We ask ourselves every year, but the AI's kind of made us focus on it. Like, how does this fit in? How is this the next step? And what people really buy from us is not necessarily the infrastructure. They buy, like, so let's just say cloud infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's relatively well understood. They buy simplicity. So like the tagline this year goes from cloud different to cloud simplified. And I'll give you that example.
I love that.
Yeah, but I'll give you that example. You may have actually helped us figure out some of that at the tech retreat. But
Good.
So yeah, there's a nickel in it for you every
Yeah,
time we use
I like that.
use the slogan. But the key is, like for cloud, and I'll tell you kind of how we're thinking about AI, is when a company comes to us, there's like different macroeconomic factors that they're thinking about. Their tech stack complexity is going up. That parallels really well with what Procure is doing. So how many different SaaS systems and softwares and all that kind of stuff do they have? On the other side, their staffing capabilities are decreasing. So while you're
I want to make one point there, because
Yeah.
this is something that I'm passionate about, okay? So IT leaders change all the time, okay? Good ones are growing, so you get somebody at the low level, then they start becoming good. IT's becoming more of a leadership role, because you're leading external partners and you're managing the whole picture versus and some leadership within teams. But I see the best talent, and I said this 15 years ago, the best talent in IT is going to end up at the provider side or end up on the big platform side.
Right.
So you have a subset that's there. It's not that they're not great talent, but the good ones are going to go where? To leadership. And then what are they going to look for? They're going to look for partnerships to drive the experience, because they can't afford to manage that in-house, because IT employment costs have gone through the roof. And you usually can't do a lot of that internationally. And so I don't know how you've seen that, but that mindset around the shift around employment, engaging, and experience, like, falls right in the center of your lap that says, by the way, I want to give you more. I want you to do more. Your land and expand capabilities have got to be going through the roof from a company perspective.
Yeah, and those people that might work at a Fortune 500 company that are experts in AWS, they aren't necessarily challenged all the time. So as they grow in their career, they want to be challenged more.
True.
They do end up coming to a provider. And then the thing that the Fortune 500 company asks us is like, look, we want to use hyperscale. We want to use multiple of them. Like, they have advantages, different ones.
They do.
Like GCP has advantages over AWS, has advantages over Azure, but I want them all. Do I want to staff 5 experts in each of those inside of my company? First of all, they're really expensive. Second of all, they're going to be bored a lot of the time. Think of almost like ProServe. There's not enough work for them all the time, but you want the best expertise, because the stuff that you're putting on top of that is so mission critical.
The complex turnup or the complex migration, that takes expertise.
Or
it takes
financial, making sure that, hey, that those couple of things we spun up on the side, those are now 50 G's a month in MRR. Nobody was watching it because we let the guys go that really know AWS or Azure, those types of things. So I'll give you the cloud landscape and what our customers are looking to buy now is they want simplicity. They know that environment is going to be complex underneath. So it's going to involve hyperscalers. It's going to involve a lot of private cloud. It's going to involve some edge stuff, SD-WAN.
Yeah.
Just things that they need to manage. And what we say internally is they want one hand to high five. I would say one throat to choke.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, take this real complex environment that you can't staff internally and let somebody handle that and make it simple for you. So that's like the cloud side where the cloud story is going, or is kind of.
I think one of the keys in that cloud story that's really important is, and you guys are staffed for it and built it, a lot of guys go, I want to build it and run it myself. And then all of a sudden, some of the teams leave and they're stuck.
Yeah.
And so there is a relationship that even if it's minuscule that grows over time, or it's that I need that team to go to, I think that Expedient is just really there as a partner on either, hey, by the way, I'm going to give you a little bit, so hybrid model. I'm going to run primary, you're going to run secondary, okay? And then what happens is they go, okay, wait a second, we need to cut costs. These two employees, I need to cut one of them. Well, where does that go? Can you manage the load internally? Nope, I'm going to cut that cost, but 40% of that person's salary is going to go to Expedient to run that. So it's not the same dollar amount. Instead of saving 100%, putting it on the other people that had no capabilities, they cut 60% of that cost. You guys pick up that difference. It's an amazing thing when you see the capability of a partnership like yours with a customer and how you fill the gaps. It's getting that confidence in you. And it's often where it starts small and it just scales. I mean, I'm assuming that's like a core of the customer base. It'll start small and you'll start to grow it. And you'll get some companies that'll come in and you'll do like a full analysis and they've already planned for it because they've had so many thorns in their side.
Well, yeah, and if you use like a software system like yours, or you use manual consultants, you're also going to be reevaluating what your mix is.
Yeah.
Just purely from a financial perspective, let alone a technology perspective. And one of the other terms that's come up a lot this year for the industry is optionality. So
True.
VMware created a big ripple by changing a lot of their pricing. It made people think about what are my options. And one of that simplicity kind of value offerings is wherever that thing, that workload needs to land, do you have somebody that can handle it for you? Or is it like, wow, 80% of this stuff they can't handle, so I need to find somebody else, or need to cobble together multiple providers to figure it out? So that notion actually plays into some of the AI stuff as well, because that's an even more complex technology stack right now. It will coalesce over time. There's lots of people investing in it.
Yeah.
But like, how do you give that simplicity so that, like, I mean, there's big news that happened in the last week with this great Chinese DeepSeek model that blew $1 trillion out of the S&P.
It really did. It's crazy.
So my portfolio's not looking as good this week. but like everybody's asking, like, what does that mean? It's like and our salespeople are asking, what does that mean to our product and our company? It's like, look, with AI, it's very difficult to make a single bet on a single provider. So, whether it's a Salesforce or an OpenAI or a Microsoft, because you don't know when the next entrant's going to come in. You need something that gives you optionality so that as something new comes up, you can start benefiting from it early and not have to staff the folks internally that know all the nuances and how to make it compliant.
So let's dig into.
Yeah.
So cloud platform, data centers. Now you're layering in AI, and you built your own. Maybe you could explain, because I'm excited to hear about this.
Yeah.
Okay. What does AI mean to Expedient and then to the end user? And where are you at in this journey of building this? Because this is your baby. This is your passion.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it. I want over the next 16 years. I want to build this.
Yeah.
And this is the next iteration, because there's so many functions or components to that. So speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So at the core, what we've developed is a platform that a client can access, so via either API or a front end. So think about if you access ChatGPT right now, there's a front end and you can chat with it and all that type of stuff. That's the kind of the mode of access. But on top of that is all the security and governance layers. So you have to authenticate correctly.
Yeah.
You have all your controls and wrappers and auditability and all that kind of stuff around it. But that's getting access to the platform. Now, what does the platform do?
Yeah.
On one side is the AI side, the part that everybody's excited about, like that Chinese model. That's a thinking machine for all intents and purposes.
Really is.
But there's a bunch of other ones. There's HIPAA compliant OpenAI, there's Anthropic, there's Google Gemini. There's a variety of people out there that all have their own thinking machines that can process data. But what are those things? They're like analytic engines, they're like our brain. But what they aren't is our memory. So like that's the key, is that, hey, you have this super high powered brain, but what information is it basing its decisions off of?
Yeah.
The second part of the platform is, how do we connect into data and pull that in and provide it? So essentially be the memory for the AI system, or for enterprises that do business with us, enterprises that do business with you guys. They want the AI to be customized to their business. So they want that data that exists in a variety of places.
So that's how you see differentiating it, is customizing the data specifically to their business needs.
Yeah.
In their platform or around their platform.
Yeah, and think about it this way, that their data doesn't just live in Azure. It doesn't just live in Salesforce. It doesn't just, it's in a variety of places, but they're one of their core assets that's relatively hard for them to tap right now. Is the way they tap it is via BI. Put a database here, have some Power BI guys build it. We know the question and we ask it and we build the report. BI is not going away. Like, those are very valuable things.
Yeah.
But what if I don't know what the question exactly is? Or I want my CEO, I want Randy asking questions of the data. Does Randy need to go to the technical team that then creates the report, that creates it? It could be 3 months before you get the answer to the thing that you need right now.
So hold on, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because if I think about, just had a conversation not too long ago about Dialpad, and I love Craig Walker and his mindset. It was all about controlling and the build out of the data and then building the story off of that. Mm-hmm. And so what you're saying is that you built the gateway, you built the AI engine, you're now looking at your clients. When your clients live within your world, within your hyperscale managed, within your compute managed, through your data center, via Nutanix, or via whatever your platform is. I mean, I think it's Dell, if I'm right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. On the compute, but when they're putting their apps on there, or they're pulling the apps in and they're running through that world, you guys are seeing all of that data. And you're building a story, if they buy into yours, for their company specific. Mm-hmm. And you're giving it back to them and what that story looks like.
Yeah. We're letting them craft their own stories. So we give them kind of the raw, here's what you could look at. But the question that you're going to ask of this data that Procure IT has is varied and will be different than maybe what your CTO asks and what your COO asks and what a field rep is going to ask. But you need to give them access so that they can pull insights and have conversations with the data. And the important part is, yes, some of the data we have. It's in our compute and our storage environments, but some of the data is in Salesforce.
You're pulling it out.
Yeah, we'll pull it in and aggregate it for them so that those are, and we use a company called Elastic to do that. Okay. So just our whole MO is, can we buy some really nice piece of software that already has all of these kind of pieces built and use that?
Yeah, but you're using your sales team, you're using your team and strategy to say, we're deploying this and we're going to engage you, the client, to build the model with you. So it's like, I think one side of this is like, what do I do with it? A lot of people are like, what do I do with AI? Where do I go with it?
Yeah.
So there's this side of, we're not only engaging you through the sales process, but we're guiding you into how you build the structure around your data in our platform to start figuring out how you want to use it.
Yeah, and it's so I've talked to different like CX guys, so like dial pads and folks like that, where it's like, well, we have a point solution, you enable it in all the stuff that we have access to in our silo, and it's a substantial silo. We're going to build all kinds of software around that. Awesome. Well, what happens when you want to correlate that to Salesforce or to something that's in some Amazon S3 bucket or something? That's where we can be kind of complementary to those, we'll call them point solutions. But like the real question underneath is like why people are buying it now where they weren't buying a lot of it last year, is they're seeing areas that they can optimize their workflows. And so a real driver right now is, I'm going to try and use technology instead of hiring more. The driver in a year or two might be, I'm going to optimize my existing organization to say, hey, I don't need 100 customer service reps, I need 80 customer service reps to do that. But that's not kind of where I'm seeing the market being yet. But that's where
Fine-tune the data, the market's going to get there.
the market will get there, and
Yeah.
it will get there. It will get there in a kind of a heterogeneous way where you will be using things like Dialpad for that domain or Salesforce. Inside of optimizing things for your salespeople, they'll be great. But as soon as it needs to bridge into marketing or things that Salesforce doesn't have access to, you lose that kind of correlation. And so you'd be like, okay, cool. You have the general platform that connects to all the data, and then you have the specific platforms that are really good at that thing that they've
So
been built for.
Copilot, how do you guys play with Copilot? How do you play with OpenAI versus what you built? How does your gateway play with that? When you just give me an idea of where somebody would sit down with your team and say, I want an AI strategy, how would that look in that conversation?
Yeah, so if it's, I kind of look at it as the macro positioning. So if it was like Microsoft and Copilot, that comes up a lot. Currently, they market well, but the actual value that people are driving out of it seems to be disconnected from the value that they were sold on. So, but the thing with Microsoft is not that. They will catch up, like they're a big company. They'll catch up on all that stuff, but they're taking a view that's very Microsoft centric. So hey, like for instance, if data is important for you, if the data is in Azure, great, like it'll be a really nice system. As soon as the data is outside, like hey, some of the data is in Salesforce.
Exactly right.
We have political blocks to keep that there. So like the way that we say to folks like that is like, look, it's kind of like back in the old ISP days. We'll be like, we'll give you access to a bunch of different upstream carriers and kind of balance it. We don't care whether it's UUNet or MCI or whatever. We'll give you them all. We'll give you them all, and we don't have a dog in the hunt. We'll just make sure that you have access to all the best data sources and all the best carriers. So OpenAI is one, but in the next week we'll add DeepSeek in because that's the new one. But Microsoft never will add DeepSeek in because they're invested 49% in OpenAI. You're all in on OpenAI. But what happens if OpenAI in a year is an also ran? Well, now you've built all of your processes around a system that's like locked into OpenAI. It's difficult because
so what you're looking at is who is the AI aggregator. The gateway allows for the AI aggregator to tell a better story than one company with their own selfish approach, another company with their own selfish approach, and based on the direction, it minimizes opportunity for a company to get the most value out of it.
Yeah, you got to hedge your bets because like let's just even look at it simplistically. If you and I were going to put $50 million invest in some different AI companies, which one? Is it OpenAI? Well, OpenAI is not in a great spot right now. As of last week, is it NVIDIA? So you have to think of almost like an angel fund. You have to kind of spread it out over time.
Well, I look forward to furthering this conversation with you. So thanks.
Thanks, Randy.